That takes real legwork.
I could spin a web if I tried,
said Wilbur, boasting.
I've just never tried.
Let's see you do it,
said Charlotte. Fern chuckled softly, and her eyes grew wide with love for the pig.
Okay,
replied Wilbur.
You coach me and I'll spin one. It must be a lot of fun to spin a web. How do I start?
Take a deep breath,
said Charlotte, smiling. Wilbur breathed deeply.
Now, climb to the highest place you can get to, like this.
Charlotte raced up to the top of the doorway. Wilbur scrambled to the top of the manure pile.
Very good,
said Charlotte.
Now, make an attachment with your spinnerets, hurl yourself into space, and let out a drag line as you go down.
Wilbur hesitated a moment, then jumped out into the air. He glanced hastily behind to see if a piece of rope was following him to check his fall, but nothing seemed to be happening in his rear, and the next thing he knew he landed with a thump. He grunted. Charlotte laughed so hard her web began to sway.
What did I do wrong?
asked the pig when he recovered from his bump.
Nothing,
said Charlotte.
It was a nice try.
I think I'll try again,
said Wilbur cheerfully.
I believe what I need is a little piece of string to hold me.
The pig walked out to his yard.
You there, Templeton?
he called. The rat poked his head out from under the trough.
Got a little piece of string I could borrow?
asked Wilbur.
I need it to spin a web.
Yes, indeed,
replied Templeton, who saved string.
No trouble at all. Anything to oblige.
He crept down into his hole, pushed the goose egg out of the way, and returned with an old piece of dirty white string. Wilbur examined it.
That's just the thing,
he said.
Tie one end to my tail, will you, Templeton?
Wilbur crouched low with his thin, curly tail toward the rat. Templeton seized the string, passed it around the end of the pig's tail, and tied 2 half-hitches. Charlotte watched in delight. Like Fern, she was truly fond of Wilbur, whose smelly pen and stale food attracted the flies that she needed, and she was proud to see that he was not a quitter and was willing to try again to spin a web. While the rat and the spider and the little girl watched, Wilbur climbed again to the top of the manure pile, full of energy and hope.
Everybody, watch!
he cried, and summoning all his strength, he threw himself into the air, head first. The string trailed behind him, but as he had neglected to fasten the other end to anything, it didn't really do any good, and Wilbur landed with a thud, crushed and hurt. Tears came to his eyes. Templeton grinned. Charlotte just sat quietly. After a bit, she spoke.
You can't spin a web, Wilbur, and I advise you to put the idea out of your mind. You lack 2 things needed for spinning a web.
What are they?
asked Wilbur sadly.
You lack a set of spinnerets, and you lack know-how. But cheer up, you don't need a web. Zuckerman supplies you with 3 big meals a day. Why should you worry about trapping food?
Wilbur sighed.
You're ever so much cleverer and brighter than I am, Charlotte. I guess I was just trying to show off. Serves me right.
Templeton untied his string and took it back to his home. Charlotte returned to her weaving.
You needn't feel too badly, Wilbur,
she said.
Not many creatures can spin webs. Even men aren't as good at it as spiders, although they think they're pretty good and they'll try anything. Did you ever hear of the Queensboro Bridge?
Wilbur shook his head.
Is it a web?
Sort of,
replied Charlotte.
But do you know how long it took men to build it? 8 whole years. My goodness, I would have starved to death waiting that long. I can make a web in a single evening.
What do people catch in the Queensboro Bridge? Bugs?
asked Wilbur.
No,
said Charlotte.
They don't catch anything. They just keep trotting back and forth across the bridge, thinking there is something better on the other side. If they'd hang head down at the top of the thing and wait quietly, maybe something good would come along. But no, with men it's rush.